We're live. Thanks, bro.
I'll call to order this meeting of the City of Salem Bond Oversight Committee for January 25th, 2024. President Arhoy.
Stapleton.
Aaron.
And we have alternate Councilor Nishioka currently.
Bob is in the back.
And Bob's in the bathroom. Well, everybody on YouTube, set on the record. Congratulations, you all know now.
Honest gal.
All right.
I'll step up and talk.
Are there any no members of the public wanting to speak? No.
Just the ready. Sorry.
This is why I show up early and eat lunch. We did receive some written correspondence. You all got an email on that. We have no action items, but we do have some management update information items, starting with project updates, transportation, the McGillcrest construction update, Alan Dannon. And for the record, we have Bob Courtwright has joined us.
Should be willing to push that one down the agenda while I pull up the email that has the update.
It depends. Is Julie ready to go? Or no? Aaron, sorry. Why was I thinking Julie? I thought Julie was next. Aaron, you ready?
Yes, the PowerPoint is up. And here it is.
We'll go to Union Street Bikeway and then we'll come back to
Ready, set, go. Come on.
Don't thank me, thank him.
Why can't I share my screen? Oh, the bright green one right in front of my face. That would make sense, everybody. Thank you. You know what? It takes a village, y'all. And then I'm going to hit F5. That should work. That doesn't work. I'm going to let you do this. This is good. That's good.
So the Union Street Bikeway.
For the record, Councilor Barney has joined us.
So this exhibit that we have flashed up here shows one of the concepts we've been kind of carrying forward. I guess we wanted to share that we're going to look into this and another concept that includes double lefts coming off of 12th Street on Marion. We've kind of looked at that a little bit already, but we're going to bring back some costs and what that would mean, the two different concepts in the future meeting. We just chatted about that just prior to this. So.
Yeah, but the rest of us are
privy to it. Yeah. So we don't have a ton of details, I guess, other than we're going to bring this one back and talk to it again.
Okay.
Just in general, the idea is that we want to evaluate a little bit further is potentially all the I'm going to just stand up and point if that's okay. I know that won't work for the streamers. Just to look at essentially all the traffic that's coming up 12th here, creating a double left, sending them to Marion, and then if they want to continue north, they can take Capitol, and that would free up this entire outside lane on Union for bikes and peds.
Because right now we don't have a sidewalk on that side.
Right.
And so it would open up all of it. But that's a big change.
And there's some devils in the details there for sure. So really what we want to do is just bring it up here for you all and make sure that that sounded like it was okay to evaluate. You didn't have any major qualms. I'm not expecting that you would, but and then we'll come back and provide a little more report.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Alan. Thank you for looking from one to the next. So I guess that's kind of where we stand on this one. So I guess we'll jump this over to unless anybody has any more questions on Union.
No.
Okay. So the next one is Silverton Road. It's just kind of a brief update on this one. Very similar to the last time. We're continuing forward with the road diet concept. I believe the last time we met, we kind of went through that a little bit at a high level as well. So the design is proceeding with that road diet. And basically, franchise utility works underway. There's a lot of franchise utilities along this corridor, so we're starting to reach out and work with those different folks, kind of work through some of those challenges that presents. And construction is still slated for 2025. The first part of construction that you'll see is related to the sanitary sewer lining portion of the project, and then from there it'll transition into more of the street effort and extend into the 26 construction season. Anything else to add on that one? That covers.
Any questions on that one?
Okay. All right. I think the next person is Julie, or do you want to jump
I
back
can
to
go
Alan?
back to McGilchrist now. That's okay. Allowing that. So with McGilchrist, the notes I got from the project manager, the right-of-way acquisition, we've completed all the acquisitions out there except for 3 that are required from the railroad, and those we need to push a little bit further onto the process, get a little further down with design. So, but that's great news. Nothing in condemnation or anything like that. So we're in good shape for all phases of the project, with that tiny exception of the railroad, who we all know is really easy to work with. Phase 1 construction is underway. Franchised utility relocation, Northwest Natural in particular, but some others as well, have been out there moving their utilities around to get in the right location. That's wrapping up as we speak. It's definitely caused some disruption in the neighborhood because they've been narrowing traffic out there. So in fact, I was talking with somebody yesterday that was concerned about that impact on local businesses because of the long queues out there. The good news is that's wrapping up. The bad news is we're going to have major road closures for the next several years, but it should actually ease the access in terms of people waiting in long lines to get through the construction zone, but they will have to go around the closures to get to where they want to go. So we'll be working out there to make sure, make it as clear as we can that local access to businesses is still open, and do some of that coordination that we try to do with all our projects to help out as best we can and make sure people can still get to where they need to go. And then phase 2 and 3, we awarded that contract for design to OTAX. Wow. And they're off and running on phase 2. So design work is underway there. And phase 2 to follow. Oh, and the last thing is the IGA for the RAISE grant is to FHWA. So city and ODOT staff have done all their revisions to it, so it's to them for finalization, and then you should see the council. I don't want to commit to a date because we don't know how long it'll take FHW, but it's coming.
That's on the existing grant that we've already been awarded.
The RAISE grant that we've been awarded, and it's 4 phases to it.
We already took care of the phase 1.
Phase 1, we're funding through other prior grants and
Okay.
ERA funds.
Okay. Okay. Nothing else on transportation updates? Oh, sorry. The last one, safer crossings, missing and replaced sidewalks, public outreach update. Julie. I knew you were there. I tried to get you in early and then I couldn't get right over you.
Have these out. So as you know, we had discussed before, we developed a process that we brought to council a couple months ago, and we've been working on putting it all together. So beginning of January, we finalized a web input form where people can submit their requests, and the address is up there, although it got a weird wrap in there. Sidewalk is actually one word there. We did an initial press release on January 10th. We have a deadline for people to submit their requests of March 31st. I am going out to the Neighborhood Association Quarterly Chairs meeting this evening to make sure that, you know, all the neighborhood associations are aware of it. We've also been sharing it as we are out and about for other items. So anyway, I just passed around this flyer. We had English one side, Spanish on the other side. We've been, you know, distributing that. Has a QR code for people to get to the web page. So as of yesterday afternoon, since this became available, we've received 200 sidewalk requests. And as you can see,
Since yesterday?
no, since January 1st.
Okay, I'm like, whoa. Okay, thank you. I'm like, did I miss something? I'm like, whoa, somebody was ready.
I don't know how many have come in since yesterday. So, you know, this 200 number may not be accurate anymore.
Often men.
And that's the sidewalk. So that's the combination of the replacement and the infill. And you can see the split there on that metric. We've also received an additional 114 safer crossing requests. So if you remember, for that, we are building on the the requests that we already know about, right? You know, all the safer crossings requests, but we're encouraging people to submit new ones just to make sure that we have a full universe. I will say that there are likely duplicates in these numbers. And we have not had the opportunity to go through and, you know, try to weed all that out. You will recall that once we get all these, the reason for having a deadline is so that we can then, you know, score them against the criteria and try to, you know, filter them down to something that's actually going to work. So that how long that's going to take will somewhat depend on how many requests we get, how many of those are duplicate, and things like that. On January 16th, I went to the Equity Roundtable that Councilor Stapleton's also on, where we have a group of individuals who are representing primarily organizations that serve communities that are typically underrepresented in our processes, to let them know about this opportunity and ask them for their help in spreading the word. It was a really helpful, beneficial meeting. They pointed out something that honestly had not even occurred to me, and that is, you know, we did this nice little brochure with, you know, the English on one side, Spanish on the other side. If you go to the website, our website is set up so that you can translate, you know, to different languages, but the tool that's embedded doesn't translate. And so I wasn't aware of that, came up during the meeting. So we decided to go ahead and translate. Turns out you can translate it. It is quite a bit of work, but we are working to translate it, the forms into Spanish. The hope is to be done with that by the end of January, you know, or so, and then I'm going to send it out again to them, and then they're going to help distribute it. So one member in particular has access to, you know, an email list of about 2,000, and then the Latina Business Alliance apparently is another like 3,500 member list. So I don't really want to do that big push until we have the form actually in Spanish. Assuming we can meet that, you know, about February 1st deadline, there will still be 2 months of time for people to submit requests. The committee did ask, is there, you know, the ability to extend that deadline if needed? And, you know, and I think there is if needed. So what we can do is do a check-in, you know, sort of about a month out or so from when it's all available. There in the tool, we will be able to see who accessed it and filled it out in Spanish versus English. And so that will be interesting information. And let's see. That's all I had on the outreach so far.
Questions? Yeah.
I was wondering, the tool that we use, we were just talking about that, you know, we translate our website, but then you go into this tool. Is that tool used for any other processes that we need to address as the on the higher level than outside the bond work? But is that something that we need?
So these mapping request tools that we've just started using, and so really the only other place that we've used it that I'm aware of is through the neighborhood traffic management plan.
Mm-hmm.
So I have asked that they also update that one. However, I said that was the lowest priority because it doesn't have a, you know, sort of deadline associated with it. I mean, it is a general limitation in our webpage that anything that you put on that's embedded, you know, whether it's a tool like this or something else, doesn't automatically translate. And, you know, so one could say, well, then why don't we translate it to, you know, another 3 or 4 languages? And how should we best address that? I don't know the answer to that, you know. Yes, it is a larger discussion of how to handle that. There was another question that came up at the group, which was, when we do these things, you know, translate these things, do we have somebody read it to see if it actually translated understandably? And, you know, the initial response I got is, you know, so like for this form, we paid a translation company to make a translation. And so I'm pretty confident of the form. The thing that we have on our webpage where you just click a thing, you know, that automatic thing. The problem there is that if you click it and it says, and then somebody reads it and says, well, gosh, this really doesn't make sense. do you then have to rewrite the English so that the English is more automatic? I mean, because we're
Right.
not paying somebody to translate that, we're using a
Right.
service that translates it. So
That
that's
sounds like a
little bit
dilemma
harder.
for our, like the web team.
Yeah, sort of more of a communications
Yeah,
thing, and
yeah.
you know, maybe do we want to invest in more languages? But anyway, for right now, to try to at least, you know, address, you know, Spanish language, which is, you know, the most prominent other language in our community, we're trying to make this happen. And it's the first time our our GIS team has ever made use of this multilingual function of these forms. And so they, Dan Brown, who's our sort of like GIS lead person, is definitely monitoring to, you know, see how this works and we can, you know, learn from it.
What about accessibility for like sight impaired? Is it optimized for that as well?
I do not know the answer to that. I can ask them what they've done it, but I don't know the answer yet.
Do we have folks in the community that we have like relationships with in that community that can help us understand? So how is that community gaining access to this information?
That's a really good question. I can follow up and see if there's anybody on the equity task force that, you know, has any suggestions.
Thanks.
Mhm.
I had a question.
Mhm.
Are there any folks on the equity roundtable willing to volunteer to do the proofreading part of it?
To make sure it makes sense,
Mhm.
like on the website.
Uh-huh.
We've utilized city staff that are bilingual for that in the past, so there's multiple staff that can kind of give that a glance. That's how we often do surveys when we're doing English and Spanish. But yeah, I mean, you can certainly reach out, and if they're aware of things that they see on the city website, they could let us know.
Sure, but I think
Right.
just someone from the community that is looking at it from a different viewpoint possibly might have some suggestions if they were interested in some folks volunteering to help with that.
And maybe that's something that we need to make sure that that equity roundtable knows that, hey, you know, if you run across things that, you know, let our communications team know. Somebody mentioned in the meeting, and I'm not aware of the details on this, that we used to use some different company for our translations to Micronesian languages, and that apparently it was pretty bad, at least according to, it was former Councilor Leung. And so she said she didn't think we were using that, we were using somebody else now. Actually, I think my understanding is we are actually contracting with some of those community organizations to do some of